What's going on, you guys? This your boy Town. So, I decided to do a stream because, like I said, I still got a little bit of work to do. So, gonna do a breakdown of the championship game, which is about to conclude in a little bit. Um, then I gotta go to Instagram, so I'm gonna load up a lot of the pictures that I took on Instagram at the ABN, for the fellas out there. So, um, yeah, I had fun though. I had fun. It's gonna be a short video that's gonna trip y'all out that I'm put up, and more concerns and fear for artificial intelligence and robots and all that type of shit. But stay tuned. But nevertheless, all right. So let's talk about the fight at hand. And first of all, to the guy that fought Jesse Hart, who came in 8 pounds overweight and to many people believe didn't even really win the fight. It should have been a draw. Real unprofessional, and that's a shame that you have that going on. So that's for you idiots that think that I, have certain energy for certain type of people. Look, if you don't make weight, you don't make weight, and I'm gonna criticize you because that's not fair. They have weight classes for a reason. Okay. But in all likelihood, Jesse Hart, he probably needed the money. I don't know what his financials is, but hey, it's a paycheck. But let's talk about Mortala. And I interviewed his father. I interviewed his father. He's had nothing to say but good things about Cruz, which I'm gonna get to Cruz, in a minute. But Raymond Mortala, to me, he won the fight. I thought he won the fight eight. I thought he won the fight 8 rounds to 4 because this was a case where clearly effective aggression paid off for him. And plus, he's the champ, and he was forcing the action as far as, trying to make the fight, you know, he's the champ. Um, Basically, Cruz didn't take it. He basically put Mortala in a position to keep it. And Mortala, he boxed very well, landing hard shots to the body. I think the body shots stood out with the judges. Of course, you had DeLuca. I think Tim Cheatham was there. Yeah, they refereed that. I mean, excuse me, they were the judges for that fight. But Cruz, to me, he just spent too much time against the ropes. That don't work with everybody. That may work with Floyd. That may work with Shakur Stevenson. You just were spending too much time against the ropes. Now, was Mortala landing everything? No, but he was landing some great body shots. He was landing some shots upstairs. Cruz had his best moments sometimes when he kept Mortella in the center of the ring. He was landing some nice counters at times, and he would land an occasional uppercut. But I just felt that he wasn't seizing control of the rounds. You know, Mortella was controlling. It was like clock management. If you want to judge a fight off clock management, Mortalla was doing more. And we all know that fighters fight 3 round fights, 3 minute round fights. So Mortella was having 2 minutes more. He was having 2 minutes to Cruz's one. So if you wanted to judge a fight by that, you can judge a fight by that. He just was more active. I don't know what the final punch stats was, but I just clearly thought that he won the fight. Now, as far as Andy Cruz go, I don't think this is no slack on Andy Cruz. Maybe he just wasn't ready for a fight of that caliber as of yet. He just wasn't ready, probably. But not making no excuses. He signed. He signed his name on the dotted line. He signed to take on Moratala, and he came up short. Um, how does he rebound from this fight? Well, get a little bit more experience. And then plus, I got to keep it a buck with Andy Cruz. Andy Cruz spent way too much time talking about Keyshawn Davis instead of worrying about the task at hand. He should have been more worried about the task at hand than what was than what was going on with Keyshawn Johnson. Now, I already had to speak on what Keyshawn Johnson did. Keyshawn Davis. I already spoke on what Keyshawn Davis did. Not a good look, very unprofessional, just and childish to a certain degree. It's okay to taunt somebody somewhat if you beat them or you trying to fight them. I know you have to do that for show, and I know you have to draw interest in a fight. And I get that. I get that to the extreme that you have to try to draw interest in a fight. But yeah, you sitting up there taking off your belt, hitting it on the ground and all that stuff like you was the guy that won. So, so it was like it was yesterday. It was last night in Vegas. I was there. So it's sort of like a touche moment to both of these dudes. You know, Keyshawn can't sit up there and try to poke fun or troll anybody when you failed to beat this man 4 times in the amateur. You should have been saying, I can't wait to get hold of Andy Cruz. The whole time you've been a pro, you've been hesitant to even mention this dude's name. But then you're sitting up there trying to troll and taunt the dude when he loses. So wasn't a good look. No, Keyshawn Davis fights next week. They were all there in Vegas. Shit. I hope they can get to New York. I hope they can get to New York because from what I was told that all the flights to the East Coast, yeah, have been delayed. So I hope they can even get to the yeah. So I hope they can even get to the East Coast. Definitely wouldn't try driving out there, but we'll just have to see. I'm going who who do I got? I'll put it to you this way. I'm not going to pick a definitive winner because I don't like to do that, but I'll put it to you this way. I won't be rooting for Tio. Do Tio do Tio got enough in his bag to be able to beat Shakur Stevenson? If he does, it'll only be because Shakur Stevenson is bigger. But Shakur Stevenson is the favorite for a reason because of his skill set. And then Tiafimo, you just look at his history. Sometimes he shows up to fight, sometimes he doesn't. But I do think that you will see a better Tiafimo Lopez than what you saw in past fights because he knows at the very minimum he has to at least make it a competitive fight. Now the question is, with Shakur, can Shakur fight at this weight? How will he look at 140? Has he reached his peak being at 135 versus trying to go up a little bit more? Because I've seen Shakur in person. He's not a very big guy. So we will find out in due time. We will find out in due time. But if I had to pick a winner, I probably would go with Shakur Stevenson, probably via unanimous decision. Or it could be close. It could possibly be it could possibly be Tiafimo losing to Shakur Stevenson in a competitive fight, which could be a split decision. But I'm probably gonna go with Shakur to win that fight. But we'll see as the fight progress. And we'll see if which Tiafimo we get. I don't think it's a foregone conclusion that Tio can't win this fight, but I'm going off skill set. But we'll find out shortly. We will find out very shortly how this fight is going to pan out. I think this fight is going to be won by what happens if it's a competitive fight, by what happens the last 4 rounds. But if it's one of those typical Shakur Stevenson fights like Williams Zepeda, where It's the sixth round, and basically Shakur Stevenson is in his comfort zone. He's having his way. He's picking Tiafimo apart. Then you know where this is headed. Now, if it's a back and forth fight where T.O. is having a lot of moments and Shakur is having a lot of moments, I do think defense to a certain degree is going to be pivotal. But there's going to be times, look, we all know that Shakur Stevenson is going to, in all likelihood, for the most, but he could switch it up. He's probably going to see what T.O. is going to be doing. Will you see Shakur initiate offense at times instead of waiting around the counterpunch? I think he's going to have to switch it up. I think he's going to have to confuse Tiafimo. So we'll see. We'll see. But yeah, as far as Andy Cruz go, just go back to the drawing board. It wasn't like you just got destroyed. You got put on your ass multiple times. You just got outclassed, and that's all it come down to. It wasn't like he knocked you down and busted you up and all that kind of stuff. It was just that he outworked you. So we'll see what happens. Anyway, this your boy Town. I'm out.